Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen of the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But yeah, guys, we'll go from a trade for the week first on Aussie yen and then progress into the analysis shortly after. So if there is a pair you want to see, feel free to skip ahead using timestamps below. But I had one position this week. It was a long position on Aussie yen, which resulted in a loss. Again, this was a part of my watch list. I was really excited to trade this opportunity. Really nice price action, fit the plan very well. I was looking to hop in on the retest of some structure of this high over here and look for continuation to the upside. The market was starting to push bullish, was breaking through the highs here on the left. I was looking for the market to come back to this high on the, well, still on the left, but come back to that daily, weekly swing high. The higher time frames were still bullish for Aussie yen. So we had a lot of confluences in my favor, but the market just failed to hold this level of support and it cracked straight through. And of course, that's why we used stop loss, because that was a hell of a move to the downside. But yeah, I took a loss there on the Aussie yen. Against all wins, losers, and break evens at the end of the day. As long as you're managing your risk, make sure you're maximizing your profit, then that's the aim of the game. But yeah, did take a loss there on Aussie yen. But into the analysis. So Euro USD, as always, we'll start with. So a very interesting end to the week with NFP. Price had a pretty aggressive move to the downside, followed by even more aggressive move back up again. So it does look like Euro USD is starting to find a little bit of a bottom of this bearish trend. Again, it has been a pretty relentless bearish trend, but it's not like we're seeing crazy bearish momentum like we were seeing, back in 2022. We're seeing really big, strong bearish legs to the downside, as you can see. Whereas this trend we're seeing is kind of a bit more corrective. So it does look like the market's starting to bottom out around these areas here. Again, I'm still longer term bearish on Euro USD. So I'm expecting to see a bigger pullback at some stage and a bigger continuation at some stage as well. And I do think that kind of bigger pullback is on the card. So for Euro USD, I'm not too interested in this opportunity, but if we do start breaking through the highs here, as in break structure, because this is still the high that gave us these lower lows. So if we can actually pinch through that, create some higher highs, I do think there will be some nice buys on a pullback, retesting some structure over here. Possibly that could look nice on the hourly time frame. And looking to capitalize on some longs there to the upside. I do think that's a really nice opportunity. Market's starting to print some higher lows as well. We're fain to create new lows. If you can take out that high, I do think this is a really nice place to start to look to go long for Euro USD and take advantage of some buys. Now, I still do think Euro USD longer term trajectory is still down, so I'm still looking at this as a counter trend opportunity. Therefore, my suggestion wouldn't be looking to try and hold these buys for too long, because coming into some of these areas, we may look to find resistance and sell back off again, potentially coming back into this old area here. That could be a strong place where sellers are sitting to take price down again. So I would be careful as into how far you look to push the trade. But in terms of the trade itself, I think it's a really nice counter trade opportunity. The market can start breaking through some structure, pull back, look for the next higher low. I do think this is a nice little trade off the back of 1.05642. This is a nice area of resistance. You can see all those wicks there resting around 1.066. Also, that could be a nice level if you want to take it a little bit further, just above 1.07. But in terms of the analysis, I am looking at a bit more upside this week for Euro. I'm pausing on my sell bias. Still there, but definitely am not so eager to jump into the market for any trades at the moment until we can come up a little bit higher, and then I'll consider looking for some sells later on. But yeah, Euro USD looking at some counter trend buys next week off the back of 1.056, we'll call it. And yeah, expect some upside next week. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen, nice move to the downside this week. We just about tapped into 150, which has been our target for dollar yen for about a month, maybe longer than a month now. We've been talking about 150, big psychological level, obviously coming back into a big swing high, daily, weekly, monthly time frame. So this is a big level, and the price just about tapped it. And of course, we had a big reaction since that. So with dollar yen, I'm kind of taking a pause right now. Although my bias at the moment is still bullish, the market is still pretty consistent with all of these higher lows here. So I'm still anticipating more upside. However, I don't want to be buying the market that is coming into such a big level of resistance up at this 150 area, where last time we were here, we had a massive sell-off. So it doesn't doesn't really make sense for me to be looking to buy dollar yen anymore as a swing trader, and I don't want to be looking to sell it just yet because the market hasn't really broke structure yet. So I want to see some signs of the market creating some lower lows, some lower highs, and then I'll consider looking to sell when a break and retest somewhere, looking to catch the next lower high. So that'll be something I'll be interested in, but I need to see price breaking structure, creating lower lows and lower highs first before I even start to consider shorting. So I'm open to both scenarios, looking to buy if the market's going to break through. Of course, I need to see a bit more evidence of that happening. I will still be looking to buy and follow that trend. And at the same time, I'll still be looking to take sales as well, but I need to see the market give me more information before I actually do start planning any of these trades. So at the moment, because we had such a strong reaction, I'll be more interested in the sells than the buys at the moment, because we are coming to the big resistance. But I need to see something like this here. So theoretically, this is kind of like a level I would look at, but I need to see that break of structure first, that lower low first, to tell me that, okay, we're actually now having a bit of an established bearish trend that I can look to follow. So I need to see a move like this for the trade to be valid. So I'm not saying jump into shorts, but if I can get a move to the downside similar to what I'm looking at there, I'll be open to some retest. And of course, we've got lots of levels we consider as potential targets as well. So yeah, in terms of targets, I'll probably play it safer than not, because we are still counter trend here. So probably this low, if not that low, would be a nice healthy target. But yeah, dollar yen, I would say I'm taking a pause now, possibly getting ready for some shorts. Need to see some bearish structure before I consider anything. But yeah, possibly some sales on the break, and we test the 148.270. Nice first target around 146.200. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, I'm still bullish on dollar CAD. I didn't get the opportunity I was looking for this week. I did say I was looking for some buys in the break, and we tested this area, and as you can see, price broke through, never had the retest, and just kept flying to the upside, and went to take out that high as well, which was the target for the week. But yeah, for dollar CAD, I'm still bullish. The market has given me a very big inverse head and shoulder on the higher time frames. So we've got the left shoulder there, the head over there. There's the kind of neckline, the right shoulder, and price is broken through that. So I'm expecting more upside for dollar CAD, and essentially we have broken through such a key level of resistance here as well at 1.365, and the next key area I'm looking at is price coming back into the high. So when the market is kind of more sideways than trending, which is kind of what dollar CAD has been doing for about a year now, since September 2022, the market has pretty much remained in this area. So there hasn't really been a trend. Sure, there might have been some trends within the range, but overall the average price has been pretty much to this. So when the market is sideways on the higher time frames, I tend to just look at the key levels and trade between them. So as you can see, prices cracked this first one. As long as we stay above this area, this is the next place I'm expecting the market to get back to. If we do break underneath, then we could be looking at a retest of some of these areas here if we do get back underneath. But of course, we'll find that out next week. But at the moment, because of that big inverse head and shoulder, the market's create a higher high and a higher low. I'm looking for the next higher low and the retest of this area. So buy still makes sense to me for a move to the upside. So I'm looking at buying opportunities. However, at the moment, I need to see a lot more rejection to show me that, okay, the market is holding on that area. At the moment, we are pretty bearish and not really seeing so much signs that we are holding this level. But if we do see some good evidence next week, some good confirmations, I'll be happy to go long from this 1.365 level. And targets can either be this high here on the left or the higher high on the daily chart, that key level at 1.384. Depending on risk reward, if it's a little bit shallow here, then I'll probably stretch a little bit further, but this could be a nice place to bank some partials or manage your trade as well. But in terms of my buys for dollar CAD, still looking at buys as long as we remain above this level. Like I said, if you do break through, there could be some short-term sales back to these areas here next week as well. So also keep an eye out for that, because again, as traders, we have to be reactionary, not so much be predictors of the market. So if that level breaks, which it definitely can do, I won't be looking for buys as such anymore, and sales back down to 1.354 will make a lot more sense. So keep an eye on that as well if the level doesn't hold. But for now, we're still above the level, so looking at buys back into 1.384 next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so on to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound still bullish bias. I'm looking at buys from this particular area coming into the week. Still haven't seen a test of that area. So just being on the sidelines with Euro Pound, but I'm still interested in picking up some longs at this area. You can see the market is now starting to print some higher highs and higher lows. So I'm simply looking to follow that to the upside. We've gone from this bowl shape pattern, market creating lower lows, as we can see, to making some equal lows more or less, and now making higher lows. So I'm looking to try and see if we can pick up the next higher low. We've got a big impulse here to the upside. This is kind of our correction, nice bull flag correction. So this is kind of like our channel that the market is working with, and then possibly some buys down here if we get the right confirmation. So we'll be still keeping an eye on 0.861. Again, as long as price kind of stays in this consolidation over here, I'm not really interested in picking up price buys or sells. This is only my area of value, so simply just waiting for price to get there, and then we can judge price if we are showing good signs of rejection, seeing some nice confirmation candles, and some buys back into the high there on the left around 0.869, 0.87 we call it. So yeah, some buys will make sense back to the high there. Risk reward could be looking very, very attractive with this one as well. We do have a key level slightly above us, which we could go and test as well, but I think I'll be more than happy just taking the trade back to the high and calling it a day there. So yeah, still keep an eye on that level there, 0.86. Trade that's 0.87. That is the plan. If you do break through this, so for example, we don't have the retest to buy, let's say we just break through, then I'll kind of back away from Euro Pound, because then we're kind of coming back into that consolidation here and things get quite choppy. Maybe you might see a push to low the range, potentially, but I'm just not interested in actually trading it anymore if we do crack through that area of confidence. So that's kind of like my wall, my barrier that we'll be working with, monitoring price action there. But yeah, looking at buys back up to 0.87 next week. Okay, so up next we've got Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar this week, we did see a nice reaction on a break and retest of this area, which is what we were looking for this week. I didn't manage to get a trade on Aussie dollar on the retest of that area because it did happen outside of my session, but we did see a nice move to the downside. However, not really as big as we were hoping for or as I was expecting price to at least come back to the lows, break out the lows. I'm still longer term looking at Aussie dollar coming into the low here at 0.62. So that's still the longer term trajectory, not too far off now. So in terms of probability of us getting to the low is pretty high. But after seeing the rejection that we had on NFP, so we had a nice sell-off followed by a big impulse to the upside. The level's not looking so good anymore to start shorting. We're still rejecting the level. You know, this is the kind of the wick I'm looking at, defining the support level. So we're still obeying that level of support now term resistance. We're still holding it. And as long as we stay below it, I'm still expecting more downside, but I'm not a big fan of this rejection here that we sold off so aggressively and came straight back in. It's not a good sign. So I'll be monitoring this area, but I won't be so eager to jump in. And quite frankly, I can see better opportunities at the moment elsewhere in the market. So Aussie dollar, I'll be pausing a little bit. And I'm wondering if this price action will we simply just come back into the range here. I think there's a good chance we could do that. If the market does come back into the range, again, I'm not interested in Aussie dollar in this area until we start trading above it or trading below it, and then things become interesting. But it does look like the market tried to sell off, but after that aggressive recovery, it's not looking too likely that we might just sell off again. Of course, we potentially could do, so probability at the end of the day, but if we do push, some pullbacks and some retests look equally as good. At least at that point, we've got a bit more of an established bearish trend to work with. Lower high, lower high, lower high. So I do like that opportunity going forward, but of course, we're still pretty far away from creating that. So if you do get back inside the range, so back above 0.638 essentially, back above that, I'll be completely backing off from Aussie dollar because, like I've said, the previous month or so, also in that range, I'm not interested in trading it at all. So Aussie dollar, keep an eye on some shorts from this 0.638 level. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of price action after that big kind of sell-off and the buyback up again, so I won't be looking for shorts at that zone anymore. But if you do get a break to the downside, some pullbacks and retest of this area, that would be much more confident shorting. So I'll still keep an eye on 0.6293 963 for a retest, but yeah, if you do get back inside that range, I'll be backing off from Aussie dollar next week. Okay, so on to NZD CAD next. So NZD CAD, we're talking about some buying opportunities this week. We're talking about the break and retest of this high here, lovely push to the upside. looking to capitalize on the next higher low. And that's exactly what happened. Nice pullback to the downside, retest that structure. Nice move to the upside there as well. And I also talked about a retest of this resistance here on the left as well. And we just about got one after price created another higher high, another pullback retest. And again, this was NFP, sent us to the downside, and then price came straight back up again. So in my book, everything is still pretty bullish with NZD CAD, at least in the full H time frames. Longer term, I'm still pretty bearish on the pair, I have to say. If I zoom out to the daily chart, as we can see, a comfortable bearish trend. So longer term, I am bearish, but I do think with this counter trend bullish structure, market starting to create, we might still see some more upside into this area here potentially, and then may sell off later on. We do have a big swing low here on the left, taking that across, will be acting as resistance over there. So potentially could see price come into that, another lower high, and kind of continue the pattern, continue the bearish channel it's been doing for quite a while now. So I can see some shorts, some longer term shorts up at this area around 0.83, but in the meantime, structure is still bullish, so we can probably anticipate this to continue a little bit further into that area. So buys look good again going to next week. I would say if you didn't catch any buys on the retest of this area, next best place to do it is after all these wicks. Again, at the moment, the market's finding it really hard to break through this 0.818 level. A bunch of wicks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So market's really struggling, but if we can break through, retest that as a nice level of support and ride up some nice intraday momentum to the upside, I think that looks like a really nice opportunity there for NZD CAD, taking advantage of this newly found bullish structure, and then possibly some sells later on, but probably discuss that next week. So yeah, NZD CAD, short-term bullish bias, short medium-term bullish bias. Again, longer term still bearish, so I still do see the market melting, but we do have a big level just below 0.83, which we could see that happen from, but at the moment, everything's pointing to the upside here. So wait for a nice break and retest. I wouldn't say buy the market now, it doesn't really make much sense. If you can get above that, retest it, use that as support, and some buys back up to 0.827 looks pretty likely next week. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So pound NZD starting to bottom out a little bit. I'm still bearish on the pair. If I flick the daily time frame real quick, you can see we've had a very confident bearish move to the downside. So essentially what I'm looking for is a correction of that and a continuation of that as well. So that's where my bias and my my direction comes from. So we are currently now reacting with a nice high we did create not too long ago, was briefly support here as well, and the market is actually reacting to that as well. So again, not really trying to short at these prices. I want price to come up higher first, not only for the retracement, but of course because we're coming into a big level here, which I don't really want to short into. It doesn't make too much sense. So I am still looking at I'm looking at 2.07. I was about to say 1.07. Still looking at 2.07, which we talked about the past couple of weeks now. Still hasn't price hasn't got there, but I do think we are creating a kind of slow upwards trend to get there, and eventually get a nice retest for some sales later on. So that is the plan going forward with pound NZD. Still looking at sells up at these prices. Anything here I'm not really interested in selling. The market is starting to bottom out as well, so I don't really want to be looking to sell at these prices. And of course with that level there running through the market too as well, doesn't really make for a clear opportunity. But if you can come up higher, we do have some brief support, which the market broke for a lot of momentum, never had the retest. So this is still a very nice attractive area to be looking for some sells. And again, possibly could look to push it all the way down to the lows there. Again, as price moves and price print structure, may just take it down to a low like this and just call it a day there, depending on the risk to reward. But if the high time frame trend is going to continue, there's a good chance we'll come back down to the lows here as well. So it's up to you how far you want to take your targets, how far you want to push your trades. But in terms of the analysis, in terms of the direction, still looking at taking pound NZD lower, but I do want it to come higher first. Not interested in any of these prices here. So yeah, keep an eye on 2.07, nice fresh area, see how price reacts with that. Again, important, wait for confirmations, don't just dive straight in. And yeah, looking to take this back down to the swing low next week. Okay, so on to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, big move to the downside week, but price started to recover that, seeing some nice bullish momentum. And we have come back to some nice structure here. We're retesting some previous resistance here. I was actually looking to buy last time we broke through this resistance over here, but never quite got the retest. And finally, price has come back into that and has shown a really nice recovery of that. So I am looking at more upside for CAD Yen. However, we are coming back into a key high here on the left, which was our prior swing high at 109,500. So if price can get back above this, I do think there's a good chance we'll probably just see price creep up back to the highs which we came from. Because again, if we look at the higher time frames here, CAD Yen is still a bullish market. I know we are still trading in the vicinity of this area of resistance, so need to watch out for that. But again, the market is still trending to the upside very cleanly, still seeing a lot of bullish momentum. Market hasn't broken through any significant structure yet, so I still do deem this a bullish market. If we don't break back above, then of course the buys wouldn't make sense. So for example, if we start rejecting this area and start coming back down again, then things get a little bit messy, maybe we consolidate. Yeah, I wouldn't look to buy that. But if you do break back above the high again, then I'm expecting to see exactly what happened last time, is price continue to the upside, back into the swing high. This potentially could be the next swing low after this low here, these lows, these lows, these lows, these lows, and print the next one there as well. So in my books, this is price just simply following structure, retesting a strong area of confidence, area of value. And I do think the next move is back to the highs for CAD Yen. However, we do need to break it back above that 109,500 mark, which is the swing high previously before buys make sense. If anything, we could still see a move to the downside back to where we came from. So be careful with the buys for now, unless we do crack back above that same resistance. But if we do, buys above that will look good. And again, looking to follow that momentum to the upside back to where we came from into 111. Yeah, pretty much 111 on the dot. So plan for next week for CAD Yen, still looking at buys, but let's see if we can break back above 109,500, and then some buys with some confirmations could look very appetizing after that. Okay, so onto pound USD. So pound USD, similar kind of situation to euro. It does look like the market is starting to bottom out a little bit. We are seeing some strong rejection in the weekly time frame. If you look at the candlesticks here, starting to print some aggressive wicks here. This is the first time we're showing aggressive wicks to the downside since we've kind of picked up bearish momentum. So it does look like, I'm not saying it's a potential bottom, because I'm actually still expecting price to come back and retest this support around 1.19. So I'm still looking at a bit more downside for pound USD, but it might be time for just a normal standard correction, which we see across all FX markets, and potentially the market does come back down after that. So that's kind of what I'm expecting next week, to see a bigger correction across most of the dollar pairs, Euro USD, Pound USD especially, with these rejections to the downside and the way the market is forming. Again, we tried to continue to the downside after NFP, but the market said no, respected some support, and now pushing bullish again. So similar situation to Euro. If we can take out the high there on the left, see a higher high from that, I do think some retests and pullbacks make a lot of sense. Catch some nice buys there to the upside, looking to catch the next higher low, 1, 2, 3, and then probably some nice buys to the upside. And we do have a big high, or low I should say, on the left, which price could potentially come back and retest. So we did break through this, no kind of significant retest on the daily time frame, maybe something small on the lower time frames, but no significant retest. So that does look like a good place for a take profit, and riding some nice intraday bullish momentum. But yeah, for pound USD, I'm still bearish on the pair, so nothing really has changed in terms of my overall bias. I still do see a lot more downside for the pair, but it could be time for that kind of bigger correction, which we kind of have been anticipating. The market has had a pretty impressive move to the downside, so sooner or later we will see that bigger pullback, and I think that is the sooner or later is about now. So with pound USD, again, still wait to see if we can get the break structure to the upside. This is still the high that gave us the new lows. Let's see if we can actually get the higher high first, and then that area of support becomes valid for some longs. And like I said, we do have this lovely level here, which could make for a nice take profit area as well. So keep an eye out for some longs next week. First, wait for the break of structure, pullbacks into 1.22. And yeah, looking at pushing to 1.23 into that daily resistance. Okay, so on to pound CAD. So pound CAD, we have seen some upside. Finally, looks like the market's starting to retrace this big bearish move. We are coming to some areas of value, which I've been talking about. These two areas, mainly this one and this one up here. We did break through the first area pretty easily. Actually, we had some news, I think, for I think for CAD, I don't think it was for pound. I think we had some news for CAD, yeah. And yeah, price broke through that pretty aggressively, so no confirmation there at all. But now I'm looking at these two areas here. So what I'm looking for is a break of structure, some lower lows and lower highs before shorting. I'm not looking to take shorts just because we come back into these areas. I want to see some evidence that the market is starting to create some lower lows, some lower highs. And then from that, I will start to plan some sells to the downside. Because again, if we are going to continue this bearish move, if this is an impulse, correction, impulse, then we don't need to take it right at the top here to catch a nice 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4. If you are going to come back to the lows here, if you can break some structure, get a retest somewhere, you can probably still get a nice trade there to the downside. So in terms of the level I'm looking to short at, it's not quite decided yet. I need price to print, give me some more information. Then I'll start to plan some trades and some setups precisely. But at the moment, I know my bias. I kind of know which areas I want to start looking to expect the market to reverse from, aka this level here, if not the level up there, 1.685. And when I can see some nice bearish structure present, I'll look for my break and retest, my areas of confluence, and then start to plan some shorts to the downside, probably back to the swing low. If not, it does determine on the risk to reward. I'll be looking at these lows here, but most likely I'll be looking to push into the swing low at 1.636, which is the low down there. But yeah, in terms of the bias, still pretty bearish for pound CAD. At the moment, you can see the market is bullish on the 4H, so we are creating higher highs and higher lows. So I'm not really trying to jump into any shorts, even though we are approaching some strong level of resistance. I don't want to be looking to short an up move like this. I want to see some evidence we are turning bearish first, and then that's when I want to step in. So keep an eye on some sells for pound CAD. Again, both these areas still look good, but the bearish structure is kind of what we're looking for to actually jump into any trades first. But yeah, still bearish on pound CAD, looking at push into the swing low next week. Okay, so pound yen up next. So pound yen and the yen pair, which of course big plummet to the downside, but prices completely erased that. Which is quite funny because, we had such an aggressive move to the downside. But, if you look at that move there to the downside, we've actually had an even bigger move back up again. Prices kind of done 150% of that move. So the real move this week was actually a move up rather than down for pound yen. And now price, looking on the higher time frames, looks like we potentially could be printing another higher low, and looks like we could be seeing another move higher for pound yen. I wouldn't be surprised if we do come back and we test that resistance. Let's not forget on the higher time frames, monthly, weekly, this is the weekly chart by the way, monthly, weekly, daily, the market is still pretty bullish. Maybe not daily time frame, but monthly, weekly, we are still bullish, and these are the higher time frames that govern the rest of the time frame, because again, everything's fractal. The 1 minute time frame is the exact same as the 1 minute time frame, just 100,000 times smaller. So it's the exact same thing we're seeing across all time frames. So that's why the higher time frames have the most importance, because they the best show the kind of overall direction of the market. And if you look at the weekly, look at the monthly, everything is still pretty bullish for pound yen. And if you look at the weekly candlestick, this candlestick in particular, big wick to the downside, the market tried to go bearish, but all it really did was just respect support here on the left and pull back and gave us a really nice aggressive wick to the downside. And if you look at a similar candle which happened not too long ago, after that what happened, the market pushed to the upside. So I wouldn't be surprised after a candlestick like this, we see the market eventually start pushing to the upside and kind of repeat the pattern and come back and attack the highs there as well. So that's kind of my thought process with pound yen. I'm not looking to buy pound yen just yet because the structure hasn't really changed in the 4H. If I highlight the structure, you can see you've gone from making lower lows. So that's a lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and price hasn't quite made a higher high yet. So kind of a similar situation as with euro and as with pound. I need to see price actually start breaking structure first, and then I'll consider looking for some buys to the upside. And of course, if we are right and the price is going to the upside, we've got a pretty long way to work with. There's a lot of pips in pound yen as well, so I wouldn't be too keen to just jump right in. I'd be more than happy to wait for price to start breaking, create some new highs first, then look for some pullbacks and look to position myself that way. So keep an eye on a break and retest of 183 for some buys. If we can get a nice breakout, nice clean breakout there, let's see if we can get some of more of this momentum sustained, break above that level. Some retests will be looking very, very attractive next week. And yeah, looking basically for a big reversal, because again, if we were to repeat that pattern on the left there, we could see a nice shift in momentum. However, I want to stress the market is still bearish for me in the 4H based on the structure at least. So I do need to see a break of structure before I can start looking to go long. And yeah, looking for some buys, even potentially a deeper retracement into this area here as well. Let's say we break structure to the upside, we come back for a deeper pullback. This is also a nice level to pick up some longs around 181,500 as well. But first, we'll be looking, of course, on the high for the break and retest. And in terms of targets, might not necessarily push it all the way back to the high there, but it does depend on the structure here on the left. These are all nice flatted places for take profits, so that'll be up to you. But again, I'm just kind of after 1 to 3s in the market, roughly around that area, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but that's kind of my soft spot for my take profits. So that's what I'll use to judge next week if I do get any longs on pound yen. But my bias is bullish, waiting for a break of 183, and then we'll look for some longs back into 186, 200 eventually. Okay, so onto gold. So I'm actually liking what I'm seeing with gold at the moment. I was looking at shorting gold coming into the week, actually into this low here on the left, but obviously price was just very, very bearish this week for gold, so I didn't quite see the pullbacks I was after. I was talking about a couple areas. This was one of them. I was keen on the retest of this low here. Of course, we were nowhere near a retest of that low. But going forward, we have just about come back into that daily support. So what can we expect next week? Potentially some upside. This is a very, very heavy move to the downside here for gold. And if you look at the market, when was the last time we've seen such an aggressive move like that? You could probably argue this move maybe, potentially this move here, potentially that move there as well, that move as well. And as you can see, after these crazy moves to the downside, the market sooner or later does see some upside to it. I'll see some upside there, see some upside there as well, see some upsides there. So we do expect to see some retracement eventually. That's just a common pattern in the market, and coming back into a strong low as well, it does make sense for some upside. So it doesn't mean I'm looking for some longs, because as a trend trader, as someone who looks to follow momentum in this case scenario is clearly to the downside. So I'm still looking at shorting gold. However, I definitely do want to see some retracement first, and my area of interest, which I was talking about last week, is still valid for next week as well. So I'm still looking at shorts around 1860 and a retest this area, brief support where the market stalled for a few hours, few candlesticks on the full H before we had a big breakout. So if we can come and retest some of these areas, I will be interested in shorting and taking gold to the downside again, back to where we came from into the swing low. So I do still like shorts to the downside for gold. Humongous move to the downside here. Now I want to see some retracement. 1860 is kind of the only area that I'll look at in this vicinity. I'd also consider this low here as well, but again, it's further away. So we'll look at this low first, and we'll look at that one after if it doesn't hold. But at the moment, 1860 does look pretty attractive for some sells. And if we can get the right confirmations, I will be keen to short gold again next week. But yeah, I do want to see some retracement first for gold. But yeah, keep an eye on 1860 and looking to sell gold to exactly where we came from, exactly where we are right now, back to 1811. Okay, so onto Bitcoin. So Bitcoin bearish bias still intact, still looking at shorts for Bitcoin coming into this area. Did see a nice tap on this area last week, and I said still looking at shorts, potentially price can come up for another retest before selling off, because we were respecting some of these areas here as support. So as you can see, there is a bit of a counter trend opportunity here, and the market's retested some structure. So I do believe there is some short-term upside, maybe from the lower time frames for Bitcoin, maybe able to take advantage of some short-term buys back up to 28.6, 28.8. But from there, I'm still looking at shorts. As long as we don't break through this area, I'm still bearish on Bitcoin, looking for a move to the downside, back into these lows and essentially breaking through them eventually, but we'll take it one step at a time. If Bitcoin does break above that, then that's when I'll pause on that bearish bias. We might be looking at price coming back to the highs here on the left at 31,600 as well. So this is kind of like a big level for me that kind of sets my bias up. If price does break, I'm backing away from that short bias. If we can come up, respect it again, I do think there's a nice sell-off to be had for Bitcoin. But yeah, keep an eye on 28.6. Right now, the market's kind of just moving sideways, but we are maintaining this bullish structure. So like I said, on the lower time frames, could be some short-term buys on the break and retest some structure, maybe hourly, 30-minute back up into that level, and then could be followed by some nice shorts later on. But of course, the candlesticks is what's going to confirm it for us in that area if we're going to reject it or not. So yeah, keep an eye for some sells up at 28.6, 28.8. And things look good. Could be looking to short it back down to 25,200. So that is the plan next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is silver, which is a similar opportunity to gold, and I actually quite like them both, but I do like silver a little bit better than gold actually. But essentially looking at shorting silver as well, and of course, gold and silver very heavily correlated. If silver's going down, gold's normally going down, vice versa. So in terms of the opportunity, very, very similar, but I do prefer the price action a bit more on silver because number one, we haven't got to the target yet. Gold's already hit the target. So we could be seeing a big bounce from that perspective, maybe a reversal, but silver still hasn't come back to the low here yet. And quite frankly, silver's in the middle of nowhere a little bit between, such a big level, which we broke through last week, or was it this week? No, yeah, this week. We had a big breakthrough this level this week, and price kind of trading between two key levels here. So price for me is a bit of middle of nowhere. We do have a big level here on the left for silver, which price was holding as support. If I zoom out, actually, let me just go to the weekly time frame. As you can see, this is a big level of support. Price was holding it as support multiple times. And, well, not really over there. We're kind of trading slightly above it. Now it looks like price is trying to break through. So I'm looking at more downside from that perspective. Suck your mother and call you dad. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is silver. Now, silver is a very similar pair, Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is silver. Now, this is a similar opportunity to gold. Gold and silver are very heavily correlated. If silver's going down, mostly gold's going down and vice versa. But I do like the price action in silver and I actually like it better than gold. So I'll probably focus on silver a little bit more, but I'll be keeping an eye on both of them because they're very, very similar. And whichever gives me a better trade is the one essentially I'll look to trade. But I'll tell you why I do like silver better than gold, because number one, gold's testing a key level of daily support. So potentially could see a reaction, a big reaction off that. Silver at the moment is kind of middle of nowhere. We've just broken through such a key level here on the daily chart. We left that level behind, big break, no retest, and now price is kind of trading in the middle of nowhere. The next kind of key low is down here at 19.99. So that's where I'm expecting silver to end up. And right now, kind of just in between the two levels. So essentially what I'm looking for is for silver to come up, retest some structure, and just continue to the downside. So very, very simple opportunity. We don't need Einstein to kind of figure this one out. Of course, it's all probability, so I could be wrong. The market could start flying. But in terms of probability, we've got a good chance the market is coming back to below here. The market's tried to go bullish here. We have printed in a nice bullish trend here, as you can see. But, you would expect the market to have gone bullish by now if it was going to keep going. So most likely we are going to come back into the low here. We saw a really nice momentum to the upside, taking out some structure. But essentially, the market just came back down and continue with these lower highs. So essentially what I'm looking at is a retest of this, a correction of that big bearish impulse, correction of that, retest some structure, and then looking to a full price to come back and attack the lows at 19.99. So that's the opportunity I'm looking at. If I drop to the 4H time frame, this is the level I'm looking at here. So if I can see a pullback into this area, I'll be more than happy to short if the price action looks good. I must stress I'm not just shorting because it's there, but because of the rejection, because of the confirmation I'm seeing looks good as well. That's what will trigger me into the trade. And in terms of the trade opportunity, it depends on the risk reward, quite frankly. I probably would say most likely my targets probably will just be back down to the low here. I reckon I can probably get a nice 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3, maybe 1 to 4, depending on the entry, back down to the low here. So I don't really need to push it down to the low there. Maybe I might leave a small percentage of my trade to trickle if things look good, back down to 19.99. But most likely I'll be taking either 100% of my profit that I have at the time at that level, or I might leave a small position to run to the low here. But most likely I'll just be looking to take my profit at that low there if the risk reward is good. But in terms of the analysis, I'm looking at more downside for silver. Very, very strong impulsive leg here to the downside. So essentially just looking at a correction and another continuation lower. So I really do like silver, and this one will definitely make the watch list going into next week. Let me just redo that kind of line there because it was just very messy and it was bugging me a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit neater. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the analysis, guys. Make sure you do follow me on Telegram, by the way, because I will be updating Telegram as I normally do every weekend with my top 5 pairs on my watch list for the week ahead. So if you want to see what I'm looking at, feel free to check it out, link in the description to that. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, guys, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Make sure you do hit the bell as well so don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. But guys, thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all next week.